There is so much talk about women's hormonal health, which is great. But even though it's a bigger part of the conversation, most women are left even more confused about what it means for them and what to do about it, which is not so great. This confusion ends now. An award-winning German nutrition scientist created a powerful herbal formula called Hormone Harmony, which combines 12 powerful adaptogens into one single capsule. Each of these ingredients is carefully selected based on scientific evidence, and it's been proven effective in clinical studies for women of various ages and hormonal profiles. And Happy Mammoth, the company that produces Hormone Harmony, is famous for its zero compromise policy. No GMOs, artificial fillers or flavors, or any other junk. Only science-backed ingredients in amounts that are clinically proven. The company surveyed over 1,500 women to see how Hormone Harmony helped them, and the results are mind-blowing. 86% of women started losing weight, 77% say it improved their mood, and 100% said they're feeling like themselves again. Hormone Harmony has over 50,000 raving reviews from women all over the world, with 98% of them saying they'd gladly recommend it to their friends and family. For a limited time, you can get 15% off on your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use the code HAPPYME, HAPPYME, at checkout. That's code HAPPYME at happymammoth.com for 15% off your entire first order.
Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
This episode is also available as a video if you would like to see my facial expressions as well as listen to my voice. This is available to anyone who's a member of my Patreon at the $6 a month level. And also, if you would prefer to listen to this episode with just no ads at all, but my voice, that's available to people who join my Patreon at the $1 a month level. You can do either option by going to patreon.com/AnnFosterWriter. The link is also in this episode description. Enjoy! Hello and welcome to Vulgar History, a feminist women's history comedy podcast. My name is Ann Foster and we are in Marie Antoinette Month, which is a time where every week we're talking about Marie Antoinette and the people closest to her. And this week we're talking about somebody, we'll get into how close were they really, but we're talking about one of her besties who we're going to call Gabrielle. Her full name is Yolande Martine Gabrielle de Polastron, Duchess de Polignac, played in the movie the Sofia Coppola movie by Rose Byrne, if you're familiar with the movie. I have a very special guest here today, a returning guest, Amanda Matta. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be a repeat guest. This is like, you know how on Saturday Night Live, you have the 5 Timers Club? Like, I feel like I'm getting there.
Absolutely. Honestly, yeah. Like there's like an elite group of people who come back here and you're here. You were on here before talking about Madame du Barry, which was such an important episode for me personally. And I hope for the listeners, because you explained Versailles, which is crucial to understand Marie Antoinette's story. And so I consider you my Versailles expert. And that's kind of why you're back again.
Yeah, I was like exposed to Versailles probably at a weird age. I was in high school and my French teacher, we had one French teacher in high school, and she like recommended a book to me. It felt like a documentary because it was so like it painted such a good picture of Versailles. But it was like this scholarly researched book just about the palace. And she's like, you would love this. And I did indeed. So I have all these weird facts about Versailles just in my noggin because it was such a weird place, like nothing else on earth.
And that it's so crucial. Like I've been, listeners, like we're having this episode like in a couple weeks, 2 weeks actually, we're going to be getting into Marie Antoinette herself and her story. And what's so crucial to her story is how fucked up Versailles was and what that was like for her to go into this weird, dusty establishment full of just like bitchy courtiers. That is such an important part of her story. And it's really important, I think, for people to understand how fucked up it was.
Yeah.
And how and why.
Like, it's not just she was the new kid at school and there were all these cliques already formed. Like, no, there was a weird, nonsensical code that you had to follow. And if you didn't follow it, like you were a laughingstock and your career was over at the same time. Like it's insane.
The whole thing, there was, again, in a couple of weeks, we're having a Marie Antoinette episode, but I was reading about like, she shows up in court, she's 14 years old, and she only having recently learned the French language.
Right.
And she kills it when she first arrives because she's been like a ballet instructor has told her like, here's how everyone at Versailles walks. Like there's a certain walk you have to have. There's a certain posture. And then when she walks down the aisle at her marriage ceremony, it's like she had to be told like everyone who you pass, like these people you smile and nod, these people you nod, these people you just look at, and she like every person, and she walked in the aisle. It's just like, and if she had messed up any of that, it would be like, oh, this is a disaster.
A disgrace. Yeah.
The apocalypse is upon us. She smiled and nodded at a person she should have just nodded at.
Right. And it's everything down to like the chairs at Versailles. There's a hierarchy of chairs. Did you see this anywhere? Like the king and queen get chairs that have backs and have arms. The royal family, like around them, get chairs with backs, but they don't have arms. And then everyone else, if you're lucky, you get to sit on a stool while you're in the presence of the king and queen, and everyone else gets to stand. Like it's every aspect of life is dictated to this like minute level. And it really matters. Like it really matters in this system. It's your career, it's your social standing. And that's intentional, as we talked about in the Madame du Barry episode, because Versailles was really set up for the Sun King, Louis the 14th, to keep an eye on the nobility, keep everyone in check, sort of like a cult leader. I think we talked about like keeps the cult members busy and distracted. Their minds never have a moment to rest. So they just like go along with the system and don't push back on it. It was all by design.
And it worked when he was the king.
Yeah.
And when he died, it just kind of like the system stayed, but without a cult leader. You've just got a bunch of like former cult members trapped all together with kind of no one in charge.
Like clinging to the only way of life they've ever known. Like between, I think it's like 3,000 and 10,000 people would be at Versailles every day, trying to get noticed, trying to advance their family or make money or whatever. The ultimate would be to be recognized by the cult leader. But even after he dies, we have Louis the 15th and then Louis the 16th. Technically in that position, but it's never the same, I would say, after Louis the 14th dies, and you're vying for status, but like it's being doled out by people who don't quite care the same way either. Like Louis the 16th could have changed the system because he's in that top job, but really the system dictated how he and ultimately Marie Antoinette lived their lives, and they were miserable because of it.
Yeah. It's just like this it was invented by Louis the 14th, and it just kind of like stuck around after him. So for myself, like learning about this history in depth for really the first time ever, when people talk about like, oh, Marie Antoinette, she represents like this old regime and we all hate the monarchy. It's like, well, what you hated was what Louis the 14th did.
Right.
And then she kind of inherited it. She didn't like it. She didn't want to be in it. She didn't invent that. It's like, who you hate is him, like Louis the 14th 200 years ago. But she just happens to be the new representative of it and got the brunt of that.
And she is sort of in her way trying to reform how the system works. She is still relying on a system of having her favorites and making enemies at court and cutting them out entirely. So that's not amazing. But in her own way, within the scope of an absolute monarchy, she was sort of trying to change the system. The issue then becomes, well, you're still spending all this money and your people can't afford bread, famously. But, she wasn't this monster upholding the ancient regime the way that people want to say that she was. The scene in the Sofia Coppola movie with she's naked getting out of bed in the morning and like trying to get dressed, and every time somebody new comes into the room, because you could go watch the king and queen get dressed in the morning, like someone else has to be handed the nightgown or the chemise to put on her because that's their honor to put it on, and then someone else comes in and then it has to be like, that's real. That really happened. Like the system was so down to the last detail. Every ranking, everyone knew their place. Everyone knew what they deserved, and like would make it everyone else's problem if they didn't feel like they were getting what they deserved in this Versailles society.
It's such and it had been there for so long. So the people had grown up in it. People were in it. Like there's a new generation, and that's all they knew. So why would they ever question it? But I will say in this episode, we're going to get into Marie Antoinette. And so it's understandable, even just the few examples that we just gave of why she was like, what if I have a cottage and in that cottage, there's no rules.
And I don't have to wear 8 layers and I can just wear cotton and sit in a field and feed a baby sheep. Like, what if?
it becomes perhaps more comprehensible why that is a thing she chose to do later on. So like having set the scene for Versailles itself, we'll start off talking about Gabrielle, which is what we're going to call her, the Duchess of Polignac, and who she was and how she wound up in Versailles. So so her father was a comte, like count, C-O-M-T-E, the French word for count. He was the French ambassador to Switzerland, and his wife, I don't know anything about the wife.
I did not write down anything about the wife, unfortunately.
The wife's name is Jeanne Charlotte, and she was a wife. And to marry that guy, I'm sure she was pretty elevated as well. So they're aristocrats. They're not royals. This is important.
They are in a very old aristocratic family. They have like this really illustrious pedigree, but they are broke as hell. They have all of these debts. Her family's position becomes so desperate. Like when Gabrielle is born, they move to Paris, which is like suffering a housing crisis basically at this time. It's very, very expensive. They have to actually leave and go back to like their ancestral seat in Noël. I'm not great at the French pronunciations when there's multiple vowels.
In southern France.
Yeah. Southern France, they move into their like family chateau, which is described in some of the sources as a glorified mud hut.
Oh God.
It's not good. It is fallen into disrepair. So that's where Gabrielle could have stayed if there hadn't been some like family intervention, because we do have this illustrious pedigree. Like we got to keep up appearances somehow. And she becomes like a linchpin in that plan.
This is again, like Versailles has its own society and culture, but France has this also where if you have a title that gives you entry into certain echelons of society, but it doesn't mean that you're wealthy. There's families who are wealthy, but without that title, you can't get entry into these like certain salons and stuff.
Right.
Like, so the title is worth more than money, but a lot of people with titles were poor like this. So it's just, it's all kind of like strange to me. Anyway, so she got a convent education. Which I like to point out just because not everyone gets an education, and she did. So she's coming into this with some education.
Yeah. Her mom died under mysterious to history circumstances. It was probably something very run of the mill, which is why it wasn't written down.
I'm going to say smallpox because literally everybody died of smallpox in this whole saga.
That's a fair assumption. So Gabrielle was, I think, 3 years old when her mom died. And so she has an aunt who like takes over paying for the girl's education. So she's the one that sends her to the convent to get educated. And we kind of lose track of her for a couple of years in history. We don't really know what she got up to at the convent. We don't know what she was good at, what she was being taught. We just know she was very pretty.
Yes. Okay. So we'll talk about her looks. So she had dark hair, very pale white skin, and violet colored eyes. She sounds like Elizabeth Taylor.
Yeah, that's exactly who I thought of. Like in her old 50s movies, like Father of the Bride is the one I thought of because we had like a VHS of that movie growing up, and she's on the cover just so airbrushed, and her beautiful violet eyes are right there. She's a stunner, apparently, which is in this society coupled with her pedigree, that would set her up pretty well to get some like good attention. Like you look at this impoverished noble and she's so beautiful and tragic. That could go a long way at the court of Versailles for sure.
Yeah. And she also, I feel like she's given this convent education. And I think there's kind of one of two reasons for that, like why you send girls off. It's either they're going to become a nun or they're being trained up to become more appealing on the marriage market. And I think with her looks, like that would be
there was
focus.
Potential there. And people around her recognized that. There was one account of her looks. Here it is. It was written like in the 1800s, so it's probably hearsay, but I think that's valuable too, because this is what people remembered about Gabrielle. She had a face of a perfect oval, save for the defective outline and too dark color of the forehead. So she was contoured to the gods, I guess is what that means. I don't know. Angelic features, large eyes, long brown hair, charming mouth, superb teeth, well-turned neck and shoulders, medium figure, which, however, seemed taller than it was in reality, all of which gave her an air of grace rather than beauty. A nose not altogether straight, a profound gaze, an enchanting smile, a certain nonchalant languor and careless attitude, and a simplicity full of naturalness in striking contrast to the noisy pretension of other ladies of the court. So she knew how to carry herself, is what it sounds like. At a certain point, she learned, like, if she had these features that weren't in the lexicon of beauty at the time, which, like, I don't know, I feel like a beautiful person's a beautiful person in any era, but she knew how to carry herself. She knew how to do the Versailles glide or whatever it was, probably very well. And that made up for, her not low social standing, but her, like, the difficulty she would have faced breaking into the upper echelons of society.
Well, and I like thinking like that she's a brunette because Marie Antoinette had sort of like strawberry blonde hair. The third other friend who we're going to talk about next week, the Princess of Lamballe, was a blonde. So you've got like your Charlie's Angels. You've got the three hair colors of the...
I'm thinking like Powerpuff Girls.
Yes. Exactly. Like all these iconic trios of girls. It's like you need a brunette. You need a brunette in this group, and she's bringing that to you.
Yep, the brunette friend, absolutely.
And also, it's the naturalness is one of the words that you mentioned, and I think that's what comes up a lot with the other friend who we're going to talk about next week, the Princess of Lamballe, which is just like this, because the Versailles look, at least towards the beginning of this story, was very much like you put your 2 circles of rouge on the cheeks, like you're so done up, you look like a marionette doll.
You put up... They're not pimple patches, but they had like the little patches to put all over their faces.
Yeah.
And the shapes and positions meant something. I love that we're going back in that direction right now.
Honestly, yeah. Yeah. It was a very like done up artificial look. So for her to come in with just like, but you're so beautiful without any of that. Like that kind of helps with what we're going to get into, which is kind of like a new aesthetic of like naturalness. So she's perfect for that.
And it helps. She was also described as naturally lively with a happy disposition. So there's no chance that she's going to this convent to become a nun. She's getting ready to like burst onto the society scene. Absolutely.
So she does get married at the age of 16 to Jules Francois Armand, the Comte de Polignac. This is where she becomes. He's also the Marquis de Mancini. So I don't know what the connection there is to past podcast icon Hortense Mancini, but I think it's the same family. That's like a major family.
It was like an Italian noble family, I think. He is also, I don't know if you saw this, he's the nephew of Madame Etiquette or Madame de Noailles, the Countess de Noailles at Versailles.
I did not see that. Explain who she is.
So she was one of the like maids of honor, meaning like the first of the ladies in waiting to a couple French queens in a row. So by the time Marie Antoinette comes onto the scene and she's coming in as Dauphine, Madame Etiquette, as Marie Antoinette calls her, is the person kind of like standing guard over all of these etiquette procedures and this like court code. So she gets that nickname, Madame Etiquette, from Marie Antoinette. In the Sofia Coppola movie, she's the one that says, "This, Madame, is Versailles." And so that's like legendary line delivery.
There's a line I was just going over in one of the biographies I was reading about Marie Antoinette, about Madame Etiquette, where it was saying she's the sort of person who, if like one like pin was in the wrong place in a court gown, to her, like that was the apocalypse.
Yes.
Like she, like, it's not just, there's so many rules in Versailles, and every single one of them was equally important to her.
She knew them all. She knew how to enforce them. Like, there was a rule that if you wanted to enter a room, you couldn't knock. You couldn't even like tap on the door with your knuckle. You had to scratch, with your left pinky finger. So on some of the doors at Versailles, you can still see like there's scratches in the paint because that's where people would. But like, I can't imagine that sound would travel very far, but it only had to make it to like the footman on the other side of the door. And then when they did open the door, you had to whisper your name to them. You couldn't like speak above a whisper because you hadn't yet like been admitted. And then presumably that servant would like play a game of telephone to pass your name to the king or queen or whoever's like in that room at the time. And then they would decide if you could come in or not. But it all started with like a pinky finger scratching on the door.
That just reminds me of that like ASMR, you know, like tapping on a thing with your nails. It's like the quietest little but like annoying noise.
Right. But that's the kind of thing she would have enforced and acted, like it was the apocalypse if somebody dared to actually like knock with a finger rather than a pinky nail.
Or like use your like ring finger.
The wrong hand. Yeah, use the right hand instead.
I could tell by the sound that was your right hand, and we're not going to let you in, and you're shunned now. So that was his husband.
Aunt.
His aunt. Yep. Okay. So this is also like a connection to Versailles in general.
For sure.
Yeah. That she's marrying into.
Yeah. So the Polignac family has this very like well-bred ancestry, which actually like helps to make her marriage to him make a lot of sense. Like these are very old, noble lineages kind of joining forces. I think Jules, his family, like claimed through the Mancini line that they had like roots in ancient Rome, which is debatable. But at the same time, his family is also in very uncomfortable financial straits. They have a lot of debts as well. So I don't really know what the logic is there, like marrying two indebted ancient nobles to each other, like, and just wishing, like hoping for the best. I don't know what the plan was really for their family, but this was like a marriage that the families would have arranged. They were engaged for like 2 years before they did get married. So it was planned for, it wasn't spontaneous. It was like instrumental, apparently, for these two noble families.
And to me, there's something about being betrothed at age 16, getting married at age 18. Like 16 is like, oh, little baby, but 18 is like, okay, I'll allow it.
Time to go.
That's like, that's like, you know, becoming an adult. I feel less uncomfortable about it. 18 versus 16. I don't know what that is, but
yeah, I don't know. I feel the same way as you though. And just knowing like there was time to plan for this, like they had the 2 years where it was contracted and then they actually did the marriage ceremony. Like I do feel a little better about it because that's just kind of how this society was engineered for noblemen and noble women. Like you did get married young to help, you know, move these lines along, help the situation of your family members was the hope. And you had to do it young because life expectancy was like, what, 36, 42, something at this time?
I cannot emphasize enough, smallpox was just decimating families constantly throughout this whole era in France. And they did have children right away. Well,
ish.
They got married and had children pretty sure, you know, as quickly as you can when you get married. So they had two children, a daughter with a cool name, Aglaé.
Yeah. Aglaé, I don't know.
Never seen that name before. And also a son and then two more sons. And so she's just like, she's done what was expected. Like she got married, she has these children, but that's not the end of her story. Obviously, because she gets invited to Versailles.
Yeah. So at this time, her husband, the Comte de Polignac, he's a soldier. He's serving in the 1st Regiment of Royal Dragoons. So they have like income. It's an annual salary of about 4,000 livres. But if you're trying to make your way in the world and you're having children right away, it's not necessarily enough to support you. So that's like the backdrop here. And yeah, they do get invited to Versailles. So it's Gabrielle's sister-in-law who invites them. Her name is Diane de Polignac. She is a lady in waiting to the Comtesse d'Artois. So Artois is going to become a name that we talk about a lot in this episode. He is Louis XVI's youngest brother.
And
there were
he is
3
kind
brothers.
of the hot, charming one.
The hot, fun one, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. So Diane, similarly to the Comte d'Artois, the royal family member, she has a lively spirit and an easygoing personality. So she is winning over the court. She is a really good conversationalist, even though she's not very pretty, is something that people write about her. So that's sad. She becomes very influential at court. She's raking in a lot of income. So she, as you do at this time, if you're having success, you are expected, especially if you're a woman, to help your family out. So Diane invites Gabrielle and Jules, her brother and sister-in-law, to Versailles in 1775 for a formal reception.
So the formal reception, it's like that's where you are presented to the king and queen, right?
Yeah. So as long as you can like dress the part, you're allowed to enter into Versailles. Obviously, there are some like financial restraints involved with that in dressing yourself up to that degree, but being actually presented to the king and queen, like that's a big deal. Some reports say she had already met Marie Antoinette a little earlier at her royal wedding in 1770. Other reports say that this was the first time they met. I'm of two minds. Like, I feel like Marie Antoinette would have been so overwhelmed at her wedding. She wasn't interested in making new friends on that day. Yeah. So even if they did meet earlier, I feel like this would have been the time where Marie Antoinette's like settled in. She's able to kind of take in what's happening and actually start doing that queenly job of being the arbiter of who's at court and who's in your inner circle. It probably helped Gabrielle that the presentation took place in Versailles Hall of Mirrors. So it's just a beautiful room. She's beautiful. She's graceful. And a source says that even though Gabrielle had no particular talents or great wit, the queen loved her instantly for her charm, her modesty, and her soothing influence. She is described as just being dazzled by Gabrielle. Mm-hmm. So I think that's really cute. They're like instant besties.
Yeah. Well, and I think, so this is 1775. Marie Antoinette, can you remind me? I don't know if you have this in front of you. When did they become king and queen? Like a year before that, I think. Like she's just newly queen of France.
Yeah, she became queen in 1774. So she's still pretty young. She's what, 19 or 20, something like that?
Yeah, exactly.
She's 20.
And so Marie Antoinette had been in Versailles for like 4 years, and now she's the queen of France, but she's still kind of like, she hasn't yet really made her mark on it. Like she's still pretty new.
She's playing by the rules, trying to operate in the system that's already in place and looking for people to like bring into her inner circle for sure.
Exactly. She's desperate for just like a cool friend. And when you mentioned that Gabrielle had a soothing influence, I think you can, when you meet somebody, you know, like first impressions, you're like, oh, I like her energy. Like this is like, I need someone like this who's just kind of chill. Like, please, this is what I need in my life. So
absolutely. Yeah. So she kind of instantly becomes a close friend of Marie Antoinette, a confidant. She, in those early years at Versailles, is known as unpretentious, charming. She's described as being simply dressed, probably because she and her husband don't have a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like it's out of necessity. It's not like she's actually a really modest person. We'll come back to that later. And she's also said to be non-ambitious for herself, which would have been really refreshing for Marie Antoinette. She would have approached this friendship like not looking, not assuming anything. Like she didn't, we'll talk about this too very shortly. Like Gabrielle didn't assume she could move to Versailles and like be part of the social set because her family had no money. Like they didn't have the means to do this.
Well, that's the thing. Like to move to Versailles, it's not just like great, move in. It's like you need to have so much money to live there.
Yeah. And you need to also be engineering the social situation to be offered rooms. Like there are 10,000 people there every day, sure, but like the actual housing situation is pretty dire. Like there is a shortage of rooms, even though, you know, some people have these like 10-room apartments. Other people, like nobles, are squeezing into the attic just so that they can say, oh, I live at Versailles. It's like not a fun place to be either.
That's the thing. Like, so just the ages of these two women, like Gabrielle is like a bit older than Marie Antoinette, but she's like early 20s. Marie Antoinette is like 19 or 20 years old. Like I'm just picturing like young people, you know, like freshmen at college, you know, where you're just kind of moving in and it's just like, I just want someone who I can be friends with, but everyone's living together like a dorm, like the most opulent, shitty dorm.
Kegs rolling down the hallway.
Yeah,
people actually squatting in corners.
Yeah, could you remind everybody, if they haven't heard the Madame du Barry episode, about the smell and the feces of Versailles?
The smell was not good. Even though this is like the center of French society, there was not plumbing. There were 10,000 people there, right? So,
and lots of little dogs.
Lots of dogs,
feral cats,
lots of animals running around, lots of bodies just like really close together. And yeah, the bathroom situation is not great. So there are reports like people would just do what they had to do in chamber pots or in a corner. And then we would put straw on the floor and people would have like, you would know to carry around a little like pomander or like nosegay and just like have that up at your nose if you're walking through the hallways at Versailles, because it was really gross. And hopefully by this time it's like getting better because Marie Antoinette and Louis XVI, like I feel like had the common sense to say this is not good. But it was gross. It was nasty.
And that's where I wonder if part of the whole thing about like how you have to the women in Versailles were expected to walk with this glide where it's like you can't see their feet moving. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, are they just walking on tippy toes so that their skirts don't get like anything pee on them? Like, yeah.
It's rough. It's really rough.
It's this weird, because when people think now about Versailles, or you go to visit the museum or even watching the movie, you're like, oh, this elegant, amazing, beautiful place. It's like, yeah, and it smelled like ass.
Yeah.
Like, yikes. But you couldn't say that because that wouldn't be the etiquette.
Because you're so honored to be here, right? Like you are fighting tooth and pinky nail to get in this inner circle. This is what you've like been hoping and praying for.
And so Gabrielle, she's so beautiful and she's so chill and she's so lovely. Marie Antoinette is like, come move to Versailles. And Gabrielle is like, love to, can't afford it.
Right. Like, Queen, I would be there in a heartbeat. I literally cannot afford to live at Versailles because you need outfit changes for days. Like, so a day at Versailles, also that cult leader mentality to keep people busy. Like, the nobles would go hunting in the morning and then they would come home and they would change their outfit and they would go, someone said in an account, like, we would go up to play, which I assume means like go gamble.
Cards or something.
Yeah, play cards, gamble. That required a new outfit. And then if you were doing a theater performance or a concert or an opera ball, like that required another outfit. And like this was all happening in one day. And so obviously Marie Antoinette, she's a little bit more chill. So she has pared down the social schedule, but like still, you need an outfit to go watch her get dressed in the morning. You need an outfit to go walk in the gardens. Like, so there are a lot of high costs involved. You have to employ staff. You have to, move your entire family to Versailles and like there's children involved. So major cash has to be shelled out. Just a budget to participate in gambling. Like that's a big pastime. You had to be able to put up funds for that. And Marie Antoinette loved to gamble. She thought it was the best, like it was a fad at this time, basically. And Gabrielle and her husband just didn't have the cash. So I really admire them, like saying, sorry, Queen, like we can't. It really worked out for them because Marie Antoinette is so determined to have Gabrielle in her social circle that she's like, oh my God, no problem. I got you. She settles the whole Polignac family's debts and she gives Gabrielle's husband a job. So this is like the best case scenario that anyone could wish for at this time.
Well, and because the job, presumably it's at Versailles and then it's an income. So you can be there. And it's like, again, if you're at the college dorm, you have the job working at like the security desk or whatever. It's just like, you can like you stay there, but you also have a little job and
Yeah, so his job also helped him rise in rank. So Jules is given the role of first equerry to Queen Marie Antoinette. But that unfortunately means that somebody else is out of a job. So this is a theme with Marie Antoinette. She puts people in positions at court, which like are hers like to give out. Like she's allowed to do this. She's the queen. This makes the nobility so mad because a lot of these roles, they're treated as if they are hereditary. Like a noble family would traditionally occupy, say, for example, not that this is going to come up, the governess of the children of France, right? Like that's a role that was handed down through the women in one family, like one very noble family. So Marie Antoinette sort of looks at the situation. She's like, well, no, like I want people around me that I like, not just people that have this title or this certain position. So she has to remove the Count of Tess from the role of first equerry to give the job to Jules, Comte de Polignac. Other families had like been holding out for this job, like hoping and praying it would go to them because of their position at court. And they become deeply furious at the de Polignac's family rising in rank and position. And so they immediately like kind of resent Gabrielle as she comes into court, even though like it's what the queen wanted, which is her purview entirely. But the people at Versailles, you have to remember, are like shuffling, hustling for position, putting up with stinky hallways. They really, really resent this immediately.
Well, and it's because they're like, for the last, 150 years, it's like, this is how you get positions. This is how you jostle for them. And then Marie Antoinette comes in with it. It's just like a job, and you get a new CEO and the new CEO is like, yeah, no, I know that you were anticipating getting this job, but I'm going to give it to this person who's actually qualified. So it's just qualified. Like she's, or who I like.
Yeah.
And also it's my choice. So like, fuck off. So this is just the Polignacs are upending this like cult mentality.
Which is so interesting because they do have these legitimate titles.
Yeah.
Within
they're not
the
just
system.
Nobody. It's not like Madame du Barry coming in, this like hat shop girl.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But they were a little late to the party in terms of Versailles. So like Versailles as the hub of French society had been around for like, I don't know, 70 years at this point. So there is like a hierarchy at court that's a little different than just the French nobility. So at Versailles, you had to have both the title, the money, and then the access. But Marie Antoinette's sort of coming in and making her mark here. So yeah, Gabrielle comes into court because her husband now has this job. They have an income, and the way is paved for her to become Marie Antoinette's most trusted companion. And that soothing influence is still talked about at this time. Marie Antoinette is said to be able to dispense with the usual protocol and etiquette that she hated around Gabrielle. So Gabrielle is one of the people that would go to her to the Petit Trianon when she's trying to isolate, get away from the hustle and bustle of the main palace of Versailles.
Okay, we need to talk about Petit Trianon. So that was around the same time. It was about shortly after they became king and queen. Louis XVI allows Marie Antoinette to take over the Petit Trianon. Can you explain this?
Yeah.
The Coachella of Versailles.
I think it's when she gives birth to their first child. It's like a gift or like a reward, because that's a thing that you would do, right? If your queen fulfilled her duty. So he gives her the Petit Trianon, which I think was described as like a pleasure palace, and it had previously belonged to one of Louis XV's mistresses.
It's described as a chateau. Like, you've been to Versailles, right?
Yes, I have.
What does Petit Trianon, like, functionally as a building look like? Does it look like a little palace, or does it look like a little hut?
It does look like a little palace. It's like neoclassical. It has like the facade of like, it has like 4 columns and then like a little tiny wing on either side. So it's not huge, but it still has like this grand staircase going up, and it's just like very pretty. It's like a petite, like small version of a palace.
Okay, because I've been picturing it as just like a shepherd's hut this whole time.
It's really not. It's really
that
not.
Comes later. Okay.
Yes, it has this facade that's like very, very beautiful. It's built within the grounds of Versailles, but in such a way that it's like surrounded by, like, think of like the Kew Gardens, like the botanical gardens of the king and queen. And then you see this little Petit Trianon. It was given to Madame de Pompadour by Louis XV. So it was built for her. It's pretty new at this time. It was completed in 1768. So Louis XVI gives it to Marie Antoinette for her exclusive use, and she uses it to escape the formality of the big palace of Versailles. It's her private property. No one is allowed to enter without her permission. So she uses this as a way to keep everybody except her inner circle out. So
this is like, you know, you are an expert in the modern royal family. And it reminds me a lot about, if you think about someone like Princess Diana or even Kate Middleton, where it's just like everywhere they go, there's paparazzi, there's people taking pictures, like you can't do anything, where it's just like, they were desperate for just a place where they could just like chill and be okay. And like long range cameras couldn't get to them. Like they could just hide. And it's exactly that, because she's just like, I just want like a day where no one is talking about what I'm wearing and looking at what I'm doing.
Asking me questions. Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to like be by myself. Yeah.
It's literally designed for that purpose too. It's designed so that the servants are not visible. The dining room at the Petit Trianon, it's like some Harry Potter shit. The dining room can be like raised and lowered through the floorboards so that the servants can set the table, and then it can be raised back up so Marie Antoinette and her friends can have dinner and never see another person that they don't want to see.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So like that's the level to which she was craving privacy
and it's like
and intimacy.
Understandable. Like
it definitely is.
I have nothing. This only makes sense to me because you're describing it's like she wakes up, there's like a crowd of people there to dress her, there's a crowd of people watching her doing her, like she's never alone, and like anyone would lose their mind.
The king and queen at Versailles, like you could come in off the street if you were dressed correctly to watch them eat dinner. Like you would always be visible. If you've ever seen like pictures of a Buckingham Palace garden party, like in the modern sense, that's 8,000 people max. This is 10,000 people max. So like more than a Buckingham Palace garden party showing up to look at you every day. Like, of course you would want somewhere you could go to be alone with your besties. So she takes Gabrielle and Princess de Lamballe, which is one of her other besties at this time, quite often to Petit Trianon. She goes there especially after she gives birth to her daughter to recover and just like be away from it all.
Which is like, God, okay, there's an example in Marie. I just really want everybody to understand that like this is comprehensive. Like I cannot blame her at all for wanting to go to Petit. Like as an example, so when I think it was the Countess of Artois or one of her other sister-in-laws gave birth, and there's like all the courtiers are there watching it because and Marie Antoinette is there, and this is during the time period where Marie Antoinette was not getting pregnant for various reasons I will talk about in the Marie Antoinette episode, and it was really affecting her emotionally. And then she's like, her sister-in-law gave birth, and then she like, you know, she was there watching it because she had to, because that was the etiquette. And then there's courtiers in the hallway, and also like market ladies from Paris had come up, just like tourists. And as Marie Antoinette publicly had to walk from this room where she watched a baby being born into her room, people are heckling her. They're just like, when are you going to have a baby?
Right.
Like you're going through these extremely emotional, like, let's say I'll call it infertility, but it's not really that, but it kind of is. But like,
she feels like it is,
but there's no privacy, and you're going through these like extreme emotional moments. The same as like, I'm just picturing Princess Diana, you know, walking down the street and she's crying, and I was like, why are you crying, Diana? Like, it's just like, this is like sure. All of your problems were. So like the fact that she has this little escape, like this is, where else could she go to do this? It's like, it makes all of the sense to me that she would do this. I'm very defensive of Marie Antoinette, as you can tell, but because I know people say like, oh, she wanted to like play act at being a shepherdess and she's so out of touch. It's just like, can she have 5 minutes to herself? Like,
yeah. So the palace is separate, I will say, from the Hameau de Lorraine, the little village that she ends up building. And I'm sure you'll talk about that in that episode. But so eventually, I think people know about Marie Antoinette. She kind of play acts this very clean girl version of poverty and like farming life, provincial life in France. And that kind of happens in the grounds of the Petit Trianon as well. So she doesn't have to go off site, but she can, in the Sofia Coppola movie, there's a great shot of like a servant picking up an egg, cleaning it, and then putting it back so that Marie Antoinette and her daughter can like pick it up. And so that's also where this kind of played out later in her reign, where she decides she wants to live more simply. This is where she goes.
You know, that reminds me of is Barbara Streisand having a shopping mall in her basement. It's just like, I'm really rich, but I like to pretend I'm not.
I like these activities. I don't love actually mingling with the public, unfortunately.
Yeah. And this comes into like, I will get into this, I promise, in the Marie Antoinette episodes, but just kind of like, so she, for her own mental health, really is just like, I'm going to go to this place with my besties and just like have a nice time. But because she was not visible at Versailles, it's just like, well, what's she up to? She must be doing something scandalous, something. She must be having orgies, like.
And because it's so exclusive, the same nobles who are mad that Gabrielle, for example, has taken a position that they thought belonged to them, they become really offended that they're not invited into the queen's inner circle because they view that as their right. They are due that honor. And Marie Antoinette's just like, no, I'm not going to do that. So back at Versailles, though, because that's like the official seat of power. That's like where the king and queen, you know, she's not absent from court. She's still there on a day-to-day basis, pretty much. But like back at the main palace of Versailles, where Marie Antoinette is still visible on a pretty much day-to-day basis, Gabrielle is such a bestie that Marie Antoinette like wants to make sure she is never out of earshot. Like, that's the level to which she has inundated the social circle. So Marie Antoinette gives her rooms like near her own apartments. In this role, she also becomes very close with the king's youngest brother, Artois.
They're the cool kids group, I want to say. So we mentioned that Artois was like, so Louis XVI, he has two younger brothers, Provence and Artois. And Artois is just kind of, everybody agrees, like he's the hot, cool one. It's like, too bad he wasn't born first is the vibe.
Yeah,
but he is the wife, remember the wife who's the sister-in-law. And so it's kind of like Gabrielle, she has a husband. We haven't mentioned him for a while. He's there too, but kind of like, who cares?
Yeah.
But it's like, this is the young, cool group, like Marie Antoinette's friend group. It's like, she hangs out with her brother-in-law, his wife, Gabrielle. Like, these are people she likes to be with.
Yeah,
and the king is there sometimes too. And they're just like, I'm trying to think of some other example of like pop culture, but just like, we're the clique. Like we're people, we're young, we're hot, we like each other.
Chicks in 13 going on 30.
Yes, we're the six chicks. There can't be a
seventh six chick.
Like this, we're the group, and these are kind of like, the people, I think it's notable, like they're all known for being like charming and hot, but also like chill people. Like that's who she wants to be, because everyone is so high strung at Versailles.
Yeah, they definitely are. And Louis XVI actually also really loves Gabrielle. He's grateful for her calming influence on his wife. So he even recommends like Marie Antoinette chill out a little bit more and like not care about the social system.
Yeah.
Ultimately to their detriment. So he encourages Gabrielle's friendship with Marie Antoinette.
Yeah, he really likes her too. Like, that's the thing. It's kind of like the courtiers, like you're describing, like they're all freaking out because it's like, but my family has always been in charge of changing the chamber pots and now blah, blah, blah. But like, ultimately, like they're just cultivating, like, these are the people we like to be around, and let's just have them be around us.
Right.
And then, but then like, that's what they're doing. That's understandable to you and me as like people in the 21st century. But in a Versailles context, it's like, this is causing so many ripples that you should have been thinking about, but you're not.
At Versailles, like your personhood was secondary to your social standing. And Marie Antoinette and Louis are so different because they want their friend group to feel like friends. They want the people working closely to them to like be people that they like and can trust. Like wild concept.
Yeah, no, and I'm going to talk about Marie Antoinette and Louis obviously a lot in their episodes, but both of them have like some elements of what one person today might say is neurodivergence. And so I think to both of them, it's really important to be around people who they trust, to have like, just for like cortisol levels, like they just need to be like somewhere where they can actually relax.
They
like
can't operate in a system where there are strangers or people trying to catch them out on like things they're doing incorrectly. They cannot function in that system.
Right. There are people who can be like getting overstimulated for both of them, like just causes them to freeze. Like they need to feel good. So like, you can see them just not, to me, looking at them and their behavior and doing stuff like this. It's like, this is like, when you have these sorts of like neurodiverse type symptoms, it's like, you want to find a way to just like feel calmer and to feel good. So I like that Louis XVI is kind of like, oh, this person makes Marie like calmer and that's good. So let's keep her around.
Yes. And I love that because it's telling about the marriage too. Like Louis and Marie wanted each other to be happy. They weren't like, he was one of the French kings that didn't have mistresses very famously. And like, that's so rare. It's like, he's the weird one in that system. And same thing, Marie herself, like, even though there's rumors she might have had her own affair, like she still wanted Louis to be happy. Like they were a good team in terms of like working together, maybe not in terms of like steering the country. But Gabrielle, she plays a key role in that group. Like when Marie Antoinette gives birth, she's in the room and Lamballe's in the room, but like Marie she sends Lamballe to go tell other people that she's in labor. She wants Gabrielle there with her. So I think that's very interesting and telling about like in this group, like just reinforcing Gabrielle is the bestie. Like she is the trusted confidant. She also, in terms of her relationship with Artois, she like becomes instrumental. I don't know if you saw this. There's like an episode where Artois has to fight a duel. And Gabrielle is the one who like helps come up with the plan to make it like less serious, but like still bring it to a point where everyone is satisfied with the outcome. She is like in it with this family.
I believe you're talking about what is famously known as an incident at the Opera Ball on Mardi Gras in 1778.
Was this what you were going to say when you said affairs?
No. But and that's all we need to say about the incident at the Opera Ball on Mardi Gras.
It's a long rabbit hole, but it's fun if you can like piece together what's going on.
It has its own Wikipedia page. No, what I was going to say is that you mentioned Louis XVI, like he doesn't have mistresses and other kings did. And I want to mention that it's like, cool, that's chill, great for their marriage, bad for Versailles. Because, and this kind of leads into what we're going to, when we get into the sort of like gossip and scandal. So Versailles was constructed for Louis XIV. And then Louis XV, like they both had official mistresses. And when you choose an official mistress, they have their official apartments and they have their own staff. So the fact that he didn't have a mistress was meaning there's a bunch of people out of a job because there's not a mistress's household. So people are mad about that, like by not having a mistress. And so typically, you have the king and he has a wife, the queen. But the wife's job is kind of like to like host parties and have babies. And the mistress's job is to be like setting fashion trends and also be kind of like politically active and like having the king's ear. because there's not a mistress, Marie Antoinette takes on both of those roles, which is part of what makes her different from other queens. And so it sort of almost becomes like Gabrielle becomes almost like the mistress because the queen has this, like Marie Antoinette, there's no one in that mistress role, but then she has this person who's with her who's her favorite. So then people start sort of hating on Gabrielle as though she's taking on that role. And that leads me to the lesbianism rumors.
Yeah, it is so interesting. And it plays into Marie Antoinette ultimately being the scapegoat, like for the revolution. That might not have happened if Louis XVI had mistresses, because historically also the mistresses could be the scapegoat and they attracted that dissatisfaction with the royals. You could just blame it on the mistress. It didn't actually have to be a reflection of the king or queen. Now it's all coming back to Louis and Marie, which I find really interesting.
And now for a quick advertising break. Feeling better in your body shouldn't be a full-time job, but sometimes it can feel like it is. That's why Hers makes it easier to get started and stick with it, backed by expert-guided online care that puts your weight loss goals first. This isn't cookie-cutter care that forgets you in the waiting room. It's your health and goals put first, with real medical providers making sure you get what you need to get results, all from the comfort of your couch. Hers is transforming women's healthcare by providing access to affordable weight loss treatment plans. They connect you with a medical provider who will work with you to determine the best treatment option for you. Whether you want to lose weight, grow thicker, fuller hair, or find relief for anxiety, Hers has you covered. Visit forhers.com/vulgar to get a personalized, affordable plan that gets you. That's forhers.com/vulgar. forhers.com/vulgar. Weight Loss by Hers is not available everywhere. Compounded products are not approved or reviewed for safety, effectiveness, or quality by the FDA. Prescription required. See website for full details, important safety information, and restrictions. Actual price depends on product and plan purchased.
You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Progressive loves to help people make smart choices. That's why they offer a tool called Auto Quote Explorer that allows you to compare your Progressive car insurance quote with rates from other companies. So you save time on the research and can enjoy savings when you choose the best rate for you. Give it a try after this episode at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
With a major selection of the looks your kiddos love, starting at just $4 in the Walmart app, a new school year means a stylish new them. Who knew? Find skater skirts and Crocs that say, I'm casual but cool. Sparkly sneakers that say, it's my classroom, you're just learning in it. And preppy polos that say, I'm the teacher's pet, even if they're mommy's menace at home. Find their favorite styles starting at just $4 in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new.
And we're back. Which is interesting because, yeah, like it's a nice marriage. He doesn't have a mistress. Isn't that nice? But it's like, it meant that once Madame du Barry was off the scene, like she got all of the hate.
Right.
And then when she was gone, it's like, well, there's not another woman. There's not a scapegoat. So then Marie Antoinette gets it, which other queens didn't. But this is where I wanted to talk about exactly what I just said. So like rumors develop because they're on Petit Tree now. No one knows what's going on. And she's so close. But people, like there's rumors that the two of them are lovers. Mm-hmm. But it's in the terms of like queer history, it's not like we can talk about it seriously and I want to, but also it's like, isn't she monstrous? Like this is a rumor that's not meant to be like, oh, are they lovers? It's just kind of like, we hate Marie Antoinette and look how unnatural she is, quote unquote. Like that's where the rumors are coming from, not a place of like, we actually think they're lovers. It's like, let's just besmirch her name.
Absolutely. And because she's pissing people off at court, she's also attracting a lot of criticism for spending lavishly, which like I don't think was a fair criticism. Like she spent less in, I think, 10 years than certain royal mistresses of the past had spent in 1 year. It was like a figure that was given at some point.
Well, and I saw also like in terms of the time period you're looking at, this is like the 1770s, like the American Revolution is happening and France is like helping out. So it's like compared to how much money they're spending on the war, it's like of the annual budget or whatever, Marie Antoinette's expenses it was something like 7% of all the money spent was her stuff. Like other things cost a lot more than her outfits.
But we have to have that scapegoat, right? So she's rubbing people the wrong way in every direction. It's the people of France. It's the people of Versailles. She also has, I'm not trying to victim blame here, but she did have this kind of like aloof demeanor. She was kind of above it all. And people took this as her being like self-centered, indulgent. I want to
say, just from what I've been reading, she had a resting bitch face. And she did. It's like, she had this like, because of her Habsburg, Marie Antoinette's like Habsburg lineage, she was not as nowhere near as inbred as a lot of other Habsburg you're thinking about. But you know, there's a Habsburg jaw. Yes. Like you see the Spanish, like extremely inbred people, and like they couldn't close. And there's
like a Habsburg lip too.
That's what she has. She has, So she had this kind of like pouting lower lip, which is like, she is like, so when she wasn't smiling, like she had sort of like a long nose and this kind of pouting lip. So just, she had resting like snob face, like whether or not that's what she was like. And we can talk about that, but like, she just looked like she just had a face. Like I'm trying to think of someone who's like this, kind of like Gwyneth Paltrow. Like you just look like a snobby person.
Or Anya Taylor-Joy is another one I kind of think of. Yeah.
Yeah. Like there's some people who are just like, and maybe like, so it's interesting in portraits. I was reading a whole book about like how she's portrayed, and you know about art history, but in portraits, they never painted her in profile, because her profile is where it really becomes apparent. She's always face on, right? But then you see a bust of her and it's like, oh, there it is. Because you get the 360. So it's like she knew that like because of this pouting lip, like she kind of had this resting bitch face. So people like that, and that's just her face. But also it's like, and she's the queen, so it's like, oh, she's snobby. It's like, girl, she has every right to be. She's like, why wouldn't she be? Like, she's the queen. But
and so that starts to be criticized. Gabrielle is also catching strays for it, because she has been given so many honors by Marie Antoinette, and we're not done with the titles and honors she's going to be given.
And also and the Polignacs in general, like this whole family.
Right. So I said earlier, like she's not self-promoting, but she is, because this is what is expected of you, promoting her husband's family. So at a certain point, she's it actually has a name. It's like the Private Society of the Queen. It's like her inner circle. At one point, there's no fewer than 6 people from the Polignac family in that inner circle. Like she's really promoting her husband's family, their interests. And if you take issue with this impoverished noble family getting advanced at court, like that's going to become more ammunition. So we're far enough in this episode that like people are only listening if they're fans of you and me, but I just wanted to like throw some shade on the Middleton family. So this reminds me a bit of just like, oh, Pippa Middleton wrote a book. Oh, James Middleton wrote a book. It's just like, oh, they're like party favors company, got a loan from the government. Like this is what it reminds me of, where it's just kind of like your connections are obviously working for you. Right. But like back home in Bucklebury or wherever they live, like the neighbors are going to gossip because the Middleton family has a paved driveway and not a gravel driveway. And that's just an indicator that they are middle class, like pretending to be high class. Like I find this so interesting. It's like you have to be in the know to talk smack about them, but like it still happens. I don't know. I find that like fascinating.
Well, no, and this is exactly the same thing, where it's just like because of a person's connection to the royal family, then the family gets like some perks. Yep. Camilla Parker Bowles' son wrote a cookbook or whatever. It's just kind of like
we have the same publisher, by the way.
Yeah,
which I love. Like that's my fun and the connection. The
Camilla Parker Bowles. Yeah. Yeah. So it's just kind of like we still see this the same now, and I'm sure it's the same in in other businesses, which is like God knows, like all the Trump family people who
like
are
would
whatever.
James Middleton have a dog food brand if his wife wasn't the Princess of Wales? I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, no. So exactly. So it's like this is just. I'm going to say understandable. Like if you're in a position of power and your family needs some help, like you're going to help your family.
It's how the system works. Absolutely.
And that's how what's upending things here is that the Polignacs didn't used to be at Versailles at all. And now they're like
they're all there.
They're all there and they're all getting titles and jobs. And because ultimately Gabrielle is just like a chill, fun person with beautiful violet eyes. Yeah.
Yeah, but this gets interpreted. So if you want to criticize the queen, you can't do it openly. Who do you look for? The mistress, or in this case, the favorite. So the queen and Gabrielle, you were alluding to this, they become frequent subjects of libelous pamphlets. They're fittingly enough called libelles. They flood the streets of Paris. Revolutionaries eventually print them to kind of keep people mad at the monarchy. And often, it's so interesting, the Queen and Gabrielle are painted as lesbian lovers. So there is this like deep suspicion of homosexuality in France at this time. There's a code word for it. It's called the German vice, which is, I think, another stick to beat Marie Antoinette with, because she's German. Austrian. Yeah.
Oh, Austrian. Yeah.
Austrian German. Yeah. So the rumors that she and Gabrielle are lesbian lovers, sometimes to a pornographic level. Like there's pictures of them, there's prints of them like naked, embracing. It's to another level, but it's all kind of code for the vices of the monarchy, the excesses, the sin that the monarchy apparently gets up to. It's a very interesting, like layered discussion. I personally don't think it was about like Gabrielle as a person, her actual relationship with the Queen, even though they did have like a very intense relationship, friendship. There are letters between them that are like very flowery because that's how you wrote at the time. There was one where Marie Antoinette writes to her, like, only death can stop me loving you. But like, I think that's just gals being pals. Like, I don't know, at the time, there was a way to be friends with a woman and like write that.
I forget who it was, but there was a popular novel of around this time that was about passionate female friendship. And so everybody was just kind of like, that is what I'm going to be like too.
Effusive, like very flowery language. Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually really appreciate in Antonia Fraser's biography of Marie Antoinette, which is the one that was developed into the Sofia Coppola film, which is one of the more sympathetic portrayals of Marie Antoinette.
Right.
I appreciated Dame Antonia Fraser, this like elderly British person. Mm-hmm. She's like, yeah, these were all libels, but she acknowledged that like queer people now find like they like to look at this and like see this as maybe queer history. And like, so there's nothing incorrect about having that, about looking back at this and like, you know, looking at this and like imagining that they were lovers. Like this, but it's just
like, what if?
Yeah. But like the pamphlets at the time weren't saying like, we think they are lovers. It was just kind of like, look, we want to make you hate Marie Antoinette because she is emblematic of the monarchy. And this is a thing that people hate, so we're going to say that she is doing this thing.
Yeah, it was more about like, look what she gets up to in secret with her close group of friends who are corrupting the nation. Like that's more of what the tone was supposed to be, rather than like actually exposing something actually happening at Versailles. So yeah, I think it's important to like underline that distinction. And then if you want to go from there and look at their relationship, like go for it. I would love scholarship on that to happen, but it's more likely than not that they like were not lovers.
Well, and this is where like, again, it's not just because I'm talking to you that I keep bringing up the British royal family, but it's kind of like, if there actually were insiders, they would be like, what's going on with Marie Antoinette and this Swedish count who retroactively, Axel von Fersen, like every book I read was like, yeah, Marie Antoinette was probably lovers with this guy. Nobody at the time was suspecting them at all. So it's like, if you actually knew what was going on the inside, you'd be talking about Axel von Fersen. You wouldn't be talking about Polignac. Like that's people who are guessing. That's not people who know what's happening.
And Gabrielle herself, I don't know, do you want to talk about her alleged affair?
Please, no, you can explain. But because this is like, it's such a weird thing to me. French culture at this time is just kind of like people got married, but people had lovers. And that was kind of like just what you did. And that was not. So to be like, oh, the French royal family, like they're so like, look at all these excesses, but like everyone had lovers and it's just like everyone was married. It's like the dangerous
marriage was a
world.
Prerequisite to falling in love. Like you had to be married to take a lover to find a person you actually got along with. In a lot of cases.
It's like you get married so that when you have a baby, you can say, oh yeah, it's totally my husband's baby. Like you just have to have a husband.
Right. So so that does come up with Gabrielle.
I forgot she had a husband, but yeah.
Yeah, she does have a husband. They I think they work very well together, but it's never described as like a love match. It's not a passionate marriage, even though they do have at least 3 children together. The 4th child is speculated to be the son of the rakish Joseph Hyacinthe Francois de Paul de Rigaud, Count de Vaudreuil. Vaudreuil.
What do we call him? Paul? I don't know.
I guess Vaudreuil is like how we'll call him Joseph.
I like that I didn't read anything about him. I like that he's rakish. I'm picturing every romance novel that's like the rake who loved me, whatever. It's like, good for you, Gabrielle.
Kinda.
Yeah.
So he's described as like a scoundrel. So this is jumping forward a little bit to 1780-ish. That's when Gabrielle's youngest son is born. Vaudreuil Joseph, he was born in the West Indies, actually. His mother was an aristocratic white Creole woman. His father was the French governor of the island. So like he's, yes, Creole, but he's also white. And he enters the French army at the age of 19. He serves in the 7 Years' War as a staff officer. And then when the war ends, he moves to Paris. He makes his way to Versailles. He serves as the captain of the guards, like the closest group of guards working for the king. So this would bring him into contact with the queen and Gabrielle. He was also Gabrielle's distant cousin.
Who's not? Everyone's cousins.
There's a rumor that they were actually supposed to be the ones getting married at a certain point when they were like very young. But this is a story. I don't think it's true. The rumor is Joseph refused after seeing her in a convent and not thinking she was pretty enough.
Girl, that's not true.
It can't be true, right?
No one would think that of her, Elizabeth Taylor.
Well, people say like it was when she was really young, because when she got older, he saw her again and drastically like did a 180, changed his mind, but she was already married to Jules. So that's the story anyway. He is also friends with Artois. So he has an in with this inner circle, and he and Gabrielle become very friendly. Like that's for certain. He ends up having a little bit of influence with the inner circle at court, but he's also controversial, and he is seen as this like very uncouth social climber. So Gabrielle and her husband, they are social climbing, but they're not like engineering it. It's just kind of happening to them because they're nice people. Vaudreuil Joseph, he is given a lot of like flack for being very ambitious. You can't want it too badly at Versailles. Like that's another part of it.
That's so funny because like literally everybody at Versailles is ambitious,
right?
But you can't.
But you have to hide it.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. So he is said to have like a really bad temper as well. There is a story that he once broke one of Marie Antoinette's ivory billiard cues in a fit of rage. So apparently he has a temper. And he and Gabrielle, they do become buddy-buddy at a certain point. And it's speculated that they were lovers, but like there's not a lot of contemporary evidence. Like people are not, like you said, they're not writing about them having an affair. Antonia Fraser does think that it was probably true that they were lovers. And she agrees that Joseph most likely was the father of Gabrielle's youngest son, who was born in 1780. His name is, I don't know. I didn't write it down. But then there are other people who say like, it's probably not likely, since he's not a discreet person and he is social climbing, the fact that he never like brags about being in a relationship with Gabrielle might be evidence that it wasn't actually happening. There's also evidence that he and, this is fun, Elizabeth Vigée Lebrun, the painter, might have been in a relationship. She painted 2 portraits of Joseph, and he was like one of her biggest patrons. He owned a lot of her works in his private art collection, which did include a portrait of Gabrielle. But people think he was actually in a relationship with Elizabeth Vigée Lebrun and not Gabrielle, which I think is so interesting. And I would love to look more into that. But yeah, like if he was in a relationship with Gabrielle, he probably wouldn't have shut up about it. And like the fact that he maybe was in a relationship with the painter probably suggests he wouldn't have 2-timed Gabrielle. Like if he had a relationship with the queen's favorite friend, like he wouldn't have risked it by also going with a painter. And there's also no letters between them. That's the other thing. There's like no surviving correspondence.
Well, that's the thing too. Like if you're having, it's like the Axel von Fersen thing, which I'll talk about in the Marie Antoinette episodes, where it's just kind of like people generally accept that they probably were lovers, but at the same time, it's like if you're good at hiding your tracks, then you could never prove it. So
yeah, it either means that there were never letters between them or they were burned at some point.
Yeah.
So it's a big question mark. But again, something that people use kind of as ammunition against her, especially saying like that her last son is not her husband's. It just like, I don't think we'll ever know for sure, but an interesting postscript.
Well, the same thing with Marie Antoinette and her children as well. When people were just wanting to say that she was this like trashy, like orgy hostess. It's just kind of like, who is the father of these children? I wanted to talk about Elizabeth Vigée Lebrun for a second because that reminded me of, so that's the episode. Wait, no, it's come out. But so that was kind of Marie Antoinette Month started with an episode about Elizabeth Vigée Lebrun. His image was so important to Marie Antoinette. But so Elizabeth Vigée Lebrun, famously, we talked about this a few weeks ago. She liked to paint people in like very simple, almost Grecian robes. And she was really good at it. And so that really coincided with Marie Antoinette and her kind of like, I like to wear simple cotton dresses phase. So there was this portrait she did of Marie Antoinette that became very controversial because she's wearing this simple dress. But then I later saw Elizabeth Vigée Lebrun also painted both of the besties, Gabrielle and Lamballe, in the same dress and hat combo. It's just kind of like, could you do portraits of me and my besties all dressed the same?
In the same
Thank
outfit.
you.
Yeah, it's so cute. And so in the loose dresses, they're at the Petit Trianon. The official portrait of Gabrielle that like gets shown the most often is her in the light flowing fabric. She has this hat with like fresh flowers on it. She looks so just like relaxed and carefree. Like you can imagine her like just lounging around the Petit Trianon gardens. Somebody said Elizabeth Vigée Lebrun created a portrait that reflects a soul that knows nothing of the intrigues of the court. And so that was kind of how Gabrielle acted. Even though she was like integral to court politics and court intrigue, she really acted like she was above it all and did not care.
And so that like, that's the vibe, just so people can picture the visual of this era. It's like Marie Antoinette, like she really went from sort of eras, shall we say, but she really got into her clean girl era at around this point.
Transitioning from, what can we say, like reputation to folklore.
Yes, exactly. Honestly, yeah, because she went from like glitz
lover to folklore.
Like, just from like a really sort of like heavily accessorized, colorful thing to like it's literally the folklore era. It's just like it's me in the woods wearing a simple
gauzy dress.
I'm wearing my nap dress and like just my hair is simple. Like let's stop powdering the hair.
Lebrun painted the queen in one of her like muslin dresses, but then there was so much backlash to it. She had to like redo it in a satin dress. So there's like two paintings of Marie kind of in the same pose where she's holding a flower or something. And like one is her in the cotton, like very light, airy dress. And then the other one's like the court dress with the heavy satin and the powdered wig, basically. So yeah, that's kind of happening at this time too. There's like a tug of war between what the queen wants to live her life doing and what the expectation is for her.
And then also the thing about these like loose muslin dresses, which first of all, is just like, that's what you want to wear when you're like in your folklore era, wandering through the fields holding a daisy. But like this also, like at this point, the libelle, like the slander and stuff is getting so extreme. And they're like, Marie Antoinette likes to wear these dresses because it's easier to fuck people. Like, it's like these dresses, these are like fuck dresses. Like people were.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I'll get into that. I read this great book. You'd probably really like it. It's called Queen of Fashion, What Marie Antoinette Wore to the Revolution.
That's been on my list forever.
It's literally just looking at her life through what she wore. And it's so interesting. But yeah, it talks about these dresses. And eventually when certain scandals happen, the queen stops wearing these dresses because she's just like people think these are fuck dresses and I can't keep wearing them. But at this point, this is what she's wearing. So, but we're getting into the governess era.
Yes. So governess era. Yeah. So we're in about 1780, which is the year that Gabrielle is made a duchess. Now, really, it's her husband being made a duke, but like he's not important, you know? So he's just a vehicle to Gabrielle being elevated at court because that's how this system works. So he's given the title of Duc de Polignac, making Gabrielle Duchess of Polignac. Her sister-in-law, Diane, who introduced her to court, also reaps benefits from this arrangement. The king makes her comtesse at this point and appoints her head of Madame Elizabeth, so their daughter's household. Gabrielle still ascending to the upper echelons of court. She is becoming more just reviled by the public. Her family keeps getting these honors, which yes, is helping them in the short term, but in the long term, I don't know. At this time...
I just want to clarify too as well, because you mentioned before, like sometimes when someone gets a job, someone else is out of a job. But the reason the post of governess was available because the previous governess had to resign due to her connection. Due to a scandal. No, the previous governess had the last name Rohan, which you might recall from the affair of the necklace, which had not yet happened, but it's that same messy ass family.
Yeah.
Anyway, she had to resign because there's too much scandal surrounding her. So the job was open, which is why the queen appointed Gabrielle. So it's not like she pushed somebody out, but I think the fact that she gave Gabrielle, like, this is a huge status job to be the governess of the royal children.
Yeah. So once she's a duchess, she is, I guess, eligible for this job of governess of the royal children of France. So she gets that job in 1782. And like I said earlier, this is a job that traditionally would have been passed down in like a royal family tree, basically, from generation to generation through an aristocratic family. So at this time, it's the Rohans. Victoire de Rohan is the last one. Her husband was a nephew of Cardinal Rohan, who is the guy that gets swindled in the diamond necklace affair. But Victoire also, I found this so interesting because it's just proof that these jobs didn't go to the best person qualified for them. It was just based on your position at court. Victoire de Rohan, she was alleged to have been a bad influence upon the queen. Apparently, she's the one that introduced Marie Antoinette to a lot of wasteful, expensive habits like gambling, the high stakes game Pharaoh, and English horse racing. So like English horse racing was a fad at Versailles at one point. In 1776, it was so bad that Marie Antoinette's brother, Emperor Joseph, chastised Marie Antoinette for attending the governess of the children's salon, which he called a gambling den. So in 1782, Victoire is forced to resign. Her husband had a debt of upwards of 33 million livres. Eventually, they had to like sell their family home to settle this debt. Marie Antoinette did give Victoire a pension, but the couple was like banned from court. This was too much. They couldn't be at Versailles anymore. And so after this bankruptcy, the position is vacant. So rather than kind of revisiting the social hierarchy, Marie Antoinette looks at this job, which the job is to oversee a staff of over 100 courtiers and servants who take care of the royal children. So she's not necessarily the person like sitting down to teach the children, but she is like in charge of their household. Marie Antoinette looks at that job and she's like, I'm obviously going to give it to my bestie, like the person who knows me the best, knows what I want for my children the best, probably knows the children really well because she's around all the time. She was there when I gave birth to my children. So she gives this job to Gabrielle, ultimately just generating more outrage for the Polignac family at court. Even though she has this long lineage, it wasn't the correct lineage to be in a job of that much importance. She like specifically had not been born into the line of succession for royal governess, which is just an insane statement. But like, that's how the people of Versailles felt. And it was also, if you want to criticize Marie Antoinette, well, Marie Antoinette, she's depriving a very deserving, noble family of what they are owed. But like, from Marie's standpoint, she probably wanted the person in charge of her children's welfare to like be a person she liked and trusted. I don't know.
Wasn't this just like messy, like gambling den, madame?
That's insane, right? Isn't that crazy? Because like I was thinking, oh, well, it must have been if people were mad at Gabrielle de Polastron, like they must have thought she wasn't right for the job because of her lifestyle. No, it was purely like hypocritical in nature because it was just about the title. It was just about the position.
It's and it's like such a position. So she gets a 13-room apartment.
Yes.
In the Palace of Versailles. The size of this apartment was unprecedented.
Unheard of. Yeah. Traditionally, the job like of royal governess was attached to, I think, like a 5-room apartment. Gabrielle renovated it. She took over some extra rooms and she got 13 out of the deal, which is crazy for Versailles.
And you were describing like at the beginning, like people are like sleeping in the attic, like it's overpopulated. And she's just like, well, here's what I need for like myself and my like, 4 children and my husband.
Yeah, she had four kids 13 rooms. And a husband. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
13 rooms. Thank you so much. And then she's also given her own, this is where we get into the shepherd village.
Yes.
Because she's given her own cottage in the shepherd village.
So like essentially she has like a penthouse at Versailles, basically, right? Like 5 rooms is considered insanely luxurious. 13 is unheard of. So she's also given near the Petit Trianon. We talked about the Hameau de la Reine, the village, the Queen's village. She's given her own little cottage there. So she's even closer to Marie. Like wherever she goes, there Gabrielle also is. So this is great for her. She has so much access. She is so influential over how the royal family's like inner circle operates. And I don't think that's like a bad thing. I think it's just she's a trustworthy friend. She's in charge with the education of the children. She supervises various deputies and under governesses, and her household like consists of dozens of servants and then the caregivers of the children. So there's like a lot of responsibility in this role as well. So it's not like, I don't know, it wasn't just favoritism. Like she must have done a good job.
In terms of, I'm going to talk next week about the third member of this friend group, the Princess of Lamballe, but she was given the job of head of the household, so which was an equivalently intense position overseeing like hundreds of people as well. Like, so Marie Antoinette was just finding ways. She's just like, I want people who I like and trust to have these. But then it's like you're overseeing all these people who are all mad at you and think you shouldn't have this job, which would make it a bit more challenging.
There was also like a manual for this job. It has a very long French title, but it's like an official court document that includes the etiquette, the ceremonial role, and the daily responsibilities of the royal governess. And it also like contains lists of like the inventories of the children's households. So like there is like, this is an official court position. This is like, there's a lot of responsibility riding on it. And I don't blame Marie Antoinette one bit for like, I don't know, almost paring back the officialness of the role and handing it to somebody who like she liked and who liked her children. But yeah, so at this time, Gabrielle's fortune's like, she's pretty much as high as she's going to go. She does, due to this alleged relationship with Joseph, her possibly lover, most likely just like good friend. Marie Antoinette is said to not like him very much. So she starts to kind of rub Marie Antoinette the wrong way around like 1782. Marie Antoinette is recorded as like kind of cooling on Gabrielle a little bit, becoming a little bit disillusioned. Like, I've given you so much and like still you're pushing like your family, you're pushing this guy that I don't really like. So she like at a certain point goes to England for a little bit. Like
she's just like, let's just give ourselves some space.
Right. Like we need a friend break. Like it's okay. She goes and she stays with Georgiana, the Duchess of Devonshire for a while. Oh my God.
I one day we'll do an episode about the Duchess of Devonshire because she is a fascinating person with some incredible hats.
So good.
But she was kind of part of their larger friend circle somehow, this like English Duchess. Yeah. So she just like goes to England to hang out. And this is like, it's the mid 1780s. So it's not like the French Revolution where people are like escaping to England. This is just not quite yet. Let's just have a cute little visit. Like, let's just hang out with my friend. Like, let's just have some space between me. I'll talk about this more in next week's episode about the Princess of Lamballe. But like these three women, like Marie Antoinette really liked Princess of Lamballe. She really liked Gabrielle. The two of those two did not like each other at all.
No.
So it's not like a happy trio. So it's kind of like when one of them, Marie Antoinette, likes better, then the other one kind of fades away. It's kind of like one or the other. So this is like a Lamballe era happening right now.
Yeah, but they like both had their, I hate to say like uses, but like Gabrielle, she's the fun friend. She is really good at social engineering. And then Lamballe, I'm sure you're going to talk about, like, she's just chill. She's just nice. She's just like a nice, fun friend to have around. Like, she's going to compliment you. She's going to like let you be the star. And then Gabrielle is like your friend you want to take to the masked ball. Like there's different situations where you would want to have one of them around, but you maybe don't need both of them at the same time.
So she's in England, and do you know much about what she got up to there? Or just kind of like hanging out?
Yeah, she's hanging out. She's visiting friends. There's she gets a nickname in England. They call her Little Po. So she's the Duchess of Polignac. They call her Little Po because she apparently has a delicate constitution. So this is the first like inkling that maybe she's not completely physically healthy. Some people speculate she had cancer later on or was suffering from consumption, tuberculosis over this period. So this is like the first instance where that kind of pops up. But yeah, she gets this like diminutive nickname, Little Po, which I think is cute, but like kind of sad. But yeah.
So she just kind of is away I don't have anything in my notes about what happens between that and just like the French Revolution. Do you know?
A little bit. So she does come back to France. She and Marie Antoinette are good. Even Joseph, the guy that she's like allegedly in a relationship with, like he makes out pretty well, even though like his relationship with Gabrielle cools off once she realizes like, oh, Marie doesn't like this guy. Like she doesn't like me when he's around. He secures a position as the Grand Falconer of France.
Wait, this is him, the lover?
Yeah, the lover, allegedly.
The
Joseph.
Grand Falconer. So he's in charge of the falcon.
Presumably, like if you go out hunting, he's the guy in charge of the birds.
Okay.
So he gets a pension of 30,000 livres, I guess, per year, or is that maybe one time? I don't know. But he gets this job and he kind of just like goes off to live his life. So he's out of the picture now. Maybe that indicates that Gabrielle like valued her friendship with Marie Antoinette more than she ever did this guy. So it was, even if they were in love, like it wasn't a blinding passion. She was not going to risk her friendship with the queen. She was not going to risk her position at court. And I mentioned like there were rumors that her youngest son was her lover, Joseph's. King Louis XVI actually like makes a point of visiting the youngest, the baby, his household to squash the rumors, because if the king's visiting, acknowledging you, like obviously nothing can be fishy about this. That didn't really stop the rumors and the whispers about her, but like it's small potatoes compared like with what's coming and with the libels about the lesbian relationship, right? So yeah. So at this time, the pamphlets about the queen and Gabrielle possibly being lovers are like ramping up. So she's back at court, but it's never really the same as it was before she left for England. Marie Antoinette starts to feel like she's receiving too much backlash over her friendship with Gabrielle. She apparently confides to one of her other courtiers at a certain point that she's suffering acute dissatisfaction because of her relationship with Gabrielle. And so this isn't necessarily because they've had a falling out, but because Marie realizes she finally catches on to like people being unhappy that she has raised Gabrielle up so high. The woman in her household, Madame Campan, who writes a bunch of memoirs about her time working for Marie Antoinette, she writes, "Her Majesty observed to me that when a sovereign raises up favorites in court, she raises up despots against herself." So it's like you raise one person up and you make yourself a bunch of enemies. So it better be worth it. So this is the time she kind of goes to England. She comes back. And when she comes back, the revolution is really ramping up.
So she's coming back in, I'm not sure what the year is specifically, but just kind of like, we're in the late I don't know if it's literally 1789, but she comes back and it's just kind of like, I've done a gazillion episodes about like the French Revolution itself, but just kind of like for all the reasons I talked about in numerous episodes, things are getting pretty bad for our girl, Marie Antoinette. And so Gabrielle is just like, I need to be there with my friend. I don't know. Like she's just there to try to help out. I don't know. Or provide her like chillness.
Chillness. Also, she's very central to royalist like scheming. She and Artois like kind of take over because the king and queen, they got a lot on their plates, right? If there are any like pro-monarchy plots happening, Gabrielle and Artois are kind of like the ones behind them. She even is said to have persuaded Marie Antoinette to work against Jacques Necker, who is the Minister of Finances that the public loves and the king ultimately dismisses. And it's his dismissal that culminates in the attack on the Bastille. So like Gabrielle is one of the people advising, like literally advising Marie Antoinette, who in turn advises the king. So she really kind of does have this royal mistress role in that way. She's like whispering in Marie's ear, and then Marie is going to the king with all of these ideas of how to deal with the budding revolution.
This is her like...
It's not good for her.
It's not good for her. And so the Bastille is stormed and she's just like, oh, that did not go well.
There are literally
out France.
There are effigies of the Duchess of Polignac being burned in September 1788. So before the Bastille, like the public has already turned against her. And it's finally clear to her, like, oh, this is not going to go well for us. This is not going to go well for me. So she is one of the first courtiers to actually flee from Versailles. She leaves on July 16th, 1789. So what is that? 2 days after the Bastille? Yeah. Right. And in fact, all of the members of her husband's family that had been at court went with her into exile. So she was actually part of a group that Louis XVI arranged to leave court. The Comte d'Artois also left at this time. Gabrielle went with her family to Switzerland. And at this time, she still keeps in contact with Marie Antoinette, even though she's moving around. So she starts in Switzerland with her family. They travel through Austria, Italy. They eventually settle, I think, Switzerland, Turin, Rome, Venice. then they end up in Vienna. So it's kind of like the last stop for them. It takes them a while to settle. But all the while, she's writing letters to Marie Antoinette, which is kind of how historians can trace where the Polignac family went after they left Versailles, because of where these letters are being sent from.
So I'm just trying to put the math together. So like she's like adult children at this point, because like she had her children like the 1770s. Now it's like 17, like she attended like the wedding of one of her children. Like they are.
Yes.
Yeah.
The children are going to like live on and actually eventually go back to France. Her oldest son becomes a minister, spoiler alert, when Artois becomes king. He's like Charles the 10th or something like that after the Restoration. So yeah, they're doing okay, but Gabrielle is not doing okay. Because
this illness, whatever it is just like exacerbating.
She's sick and she misses the queen. Marie Antoinette is writing to her, expressing how much she misses Gabrielle. She writes her, "Adieu, dearest of friends. The word is awful, but I must say it. I have only strength enough to send you my love." So that's the queen writing to Gabrielle. So she's very, very, she's just miserable. She's sick. She's sad. Her family, or a friend of hers, writes, "She did not stop crying in all of these months she's in exile. For 6 months, a deep sadness, great sufferings without certain causes weakened her each day more." And so she's possibly got cancer, possibly consumption, and just suffering in Vienna. And then she gets the news, jumping ahead a couple years, 1793, that Marie Antoinette, her bestie, has been beheaded. And this is like the beginning of the end for Gabrielle. It's almost like this is literally what her family writes on her tombstone eventually. She just couldn't deal. She like suffered so much. They wrote on her tombstone, she died from suffering, like once she passes away. So she lasts 50 days after Queen Marie Antoinette is beheaded. She dies on December 5th, 1793. Most historians think it was cancer. Other people think it was consumption. Either way, she was suffering some kind of terminal illness for like maybe a decade at that point, because she had always been in poor health, like since she went to England and she got that nickname. So a witness at her death said, "Her last sigh was but her last breath. And to tell this in one word, her death was as sweet as she herself had been." So like to the very end, she's charming people, which is just so tragic and just heartbreaking.
So she's, in terms of her legacy, like she's in the Sophia Coppola film, she's played by Rose Byrne. Of course. Yeah. There's also a movie called Farewell, My Queen from 2012, which I haven't seen. And that's got Diane Kruger as Marie Antoinette. And then she's played by a French actress, Virginie Ledoyen. And that's a film that I think it's from the point of view of a third character who's like a servant. But I think it's a film showing like Marie Antoinette was probably lovers with Gabrielle, I believe.
Interesting. I'll have to look at that one.
And then I know that there's this TV show. I haven't seen it, but there's the Marie Antoinette TV show, and she's also in that series as well. Like, how could you not? If you're doing a Marie Antoinette story, like her friends were there. Yeah, no, she's like a major part of this. Yeah, exactly.
And in real life, she did have a legacy. So her son, Jules, who is Prince de Polignac, he does become prime minister under Artois when he becomes Charles the 10th. So that's 1830s. He's prime minister. And then her great-great-grandson, Count Pierre de Polignac, was the father of the Prince of Monaco, Rainier III. So the Monegasque royal family is descended through Gabrielle de Polignac.
So that's the Monaco, like the Grace Kelly Monaco royal family. Yeah.
Yep. Isn't that cool?
Well, just Grace Kelly is another person who had that sort of like just beauty and kind of like chill, but sort of like aristocratic looking sort of vibes. I mean,
on the surface, Grace Kelly like famously was known as like a good time if you were going to go on a date with her in Hollywood. But then she transformed her image into like, the perfect polished princess, which I love.
So you're familiar with this podcast and what we do at the end of these biographical episodes, which is we need to score Gabrielle in 4 categories. So the first one is, and this is going to be a really interesting discussion, I think, because the first category is scandaliciousness. How scandalous was she seen at the time? And it's like, to you and me, it's just like, well, she was just living within this world and she was kind of behaving with the ambition anyone else would. But to the people in Versailles, she's very scandalous. To the people of Paris, she's very scandalous. But like, was she compared to other people of the time? I don't know.
Do we give her like a differential because of the magnifying glass that's on her? Like, like is her score weighted like as if she's taking an AP course in scandaliciousness because of how intense the scrutiny of her was?
I think, yeah, because you have to look at the scandalousness in the context of where she was living and how her behavior would be perceived. And she was living in Versailles. And so her behavior was, I do think we put a magnifying glass on it. Like stuff that would not be scandalous in another context.
Like even just getting a job was seen as scandalous because she was putting people out of a job and she was upending the whole social system.
Mm-hmm.
I would give her, I want to say an 8. It's probably like a 6.5 or a 7, but under that lens, I would say an 8.
I think an 8 just for what, I mean, it was a context where it's just like, oh my God, you like did curtsy number 6 instead of curtsy number 7 to that person's wife, like apocalypse.
You sat on a chair that had a back and you are not in the royal family.
Exactly. So in a context where that sort of stuff is like such scandal, the fact that she like got these jobs and is doing all this stuff, it's just like, this is it kind of.
And that's not even like the lesbian rumors are in there for sure, but like that's the least of my concerns.
Mm-hmm. The chair setting is really it. Then interestingly, the next category is the scheminess.
Yeah.
And I don't, it's like we were talking about like these things, like they were sort of being elevated and that was kind of just, it was happening to them. Like she wasn't like a Madame du Barry who like worked her way in there and like figured out how to do it. But it's like there is some level of subtle scheminess to achieve what she achieved.
There's almost like 2 types of scheminess for Gabrielle de Polastron. There's the personal scheminess, which I don't think was necessarily there because remember she declined. Like it's almost like an Anne Boleyn refusing to marry Henry VIII. I don't think that was because she was being schemy. I think it was because she didn't want to marry him. So she went home, right? She declined to move to Versailles because she couldn't
afford it. Yeah.
Right. But then there's also when she is in the inner circle, she is advancing people. She is, royalist, monarchist plots at the beginning of the revolution have her name all over them. Mm-hmm. I would say maybe a 5, like to balance those 2 things.
Yeah. Yeah. Because she wasn't, she's not like Catherine de Medici, like going out there and just like scheming hard, but there
aren't stories of her like deposing enemies or like putting other people down to ensure her own rise. It's like just she was really nice to Marie Antoinette and for that reason got advanced.
And then within that context, like, and that's why she was able to stay in the position she was and to achieve what she did for her family was because she was smart enough to know you can't scheme hard in this situation.
Right. You got to scheme subtly.
You got to do a soft scheme.
Yeah.
Her significance, and this would be like to history, both to events of the time. And I don't know, like she's always in a Marie Antoinette movie, but like the average person on the street is not going to be like, oh yes, Polignac, of course. Like she's not.
Oh, the Rose Byrne character, got it. But the revolutionaries were burning her in effigy, so that's pretty significant.
Yeah, and she was in like people knew who she was. Like she was in all of these libelles and stuff. Like she was. The significance of her as the person who got all these favors and these jobs and this money, like that.
She was like a linchpin.
Yeah, it was like one of many specific things people could point to say, like, here's how corrupt Marie Antoinette is. Like, look what.
Like, I kind of go off of in something like the Antonia Fraser book, like, how long is your index section? Let me look. She's got a good, like, 2.5 inch long section in the index. I don't know. I would say maybe like a 6.
Yeah, I was thinking like 5.6. Let's do it like.
But am I biased? 5.5.
I'm going to say 5.5 because I was thinking like maybe a 5. Like there's certainly something there. And then because the final category is the sexism bonus. How much, if at all, did the patriarchy hold her back? And I don't think this is going to be a high number because I think she was not someone in our discussion or in my reading about her who I saw struggling to achieve more than she wound up achieving. I think she was kind of like, she went to school, she got a good marriage, she got to Versailles. Like, I don't think there's anything else. She was definitely like
confined to a very traditional role for women in this era and in her social class. But she kind of thrived in it. Like we just don't know how she felt about it. She wore the pants in her marriage for sure. Like all the sources say like, she was made a duchess. And it's like, well, no, her husband was made a duke. And then she got the title that comes along with that. But really she was made a duchess because she's the one that Marie wanted around her. So I wouldn't say sexism held her back. It kind of colored how she was talked about for sure. And like the rumors about her and Marie. But
like if she hadn't left town, I think that the misogyny and the hatred of her would have probably led to her execution.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, so I don't, like, it's certainly there, but I don't like the reason this category is there is to give some points to people who otherwise would not get any
Like
points
their
because they were
stories,
held back. So I think it would be, I think it's there, but it's not a lot. I would give her like, I don't know, a 2 or 3 or something.
I was thinking 3. Yeah.
Let me just do some quick math here.
I remember before you had the sexism bonus on this show, because I think that was introduced later, right?
I think I had it right away, but I used to just give everybody 5 automatically. So it kind of didn't really mean anything.
It was like a baseline.
Well, because I was like, well, because everybody lives within it. But then I got to some people where I'm like, some people it's worse. And some people actually, it doesn't get in their way.
Right.
So it kind of used to not be a thing. Yeah. I think about it more now. So her total is a 21.5.
Okay. Respectable.
I want to just... let's see who that puts her close to. You know who she's close to is Empress Sisi.
Yeah, okay.
I think there's a similar vibe there somehow of just kind of like, I'm just here to have a nice time. I'm very pretty.
I care a lot about certain things, but other stuff, I'm going to let it go.
Yeah, like politics is not what I'm into. Yeah, she's also, Empress Sisi has a 21. And then actually your girl, I say your girl because...
the one I was here for.
No, not the one you're here for. Actually, so Madame du Barry had a 15, so she's certainly higher than Madame du Barry. Now, I was going to say because you are in Philadelphia. You're not in Philadelphia. You're near Philadelphia.
I used to live there.
Peggy Shippen has a 19.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I feel like she is in a Peggy Shippen category of just kind of like she's there. She's doing stuff, but
doing
other
the best
people,
she could with what she had.
There's not a main character energy.
She wasn't engineering the situation.
She's just kind of like also there as well.
I love it.
Can you let everybody know, if they don't already know, where they can keep up with you and your work online, etc.?
Yeah. So I am on TikTok and Instagram as a royal commentator. That's at Matta of Fact, MATTA_of.
Not changing your name
fact.
after you get married?
No, I'm 49 days out. I'm not changing it legally because who knows what the government is going to do if your name doesn't match your birth certificate as a woman in this country.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put that off for a while, but socially and like I'll go by my husband's name, professionally keeping mine
Matta
because because it's like it's baked in. It's like literally my last name.
Yeah.
And then like the book is coming out under my name, so I wanted that to be like preserved and not confusing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, speaking of which, forthcoming royal guidebook, field guide to Royal World, coming out in spring 2027. So still working on the manuscript there, but it's nice knowing it's actually going to see the light of day. That's wonderful as I'm writing it. And then you can keep up with my current writings on Substack. It's Matta of Fact, no underscores, .substack, but my newsletter is called The Fascinator. So I talk about royal news, culture, history, all that good stuff over there.
I love when you do a history one. I'm just
it's
like,
fun. Yeah. I did a series, I want to pick it back up, about like royal scapegoats. I called it Off with Their Heads, or Off with Her Head, which was like gonna be my book pitch, but then another book came out called Off with Her Head recently. And it's not quite what I would have written. Like mine would have specifically been about royal history, royal women across cultures being scapegoated. This one was more about like women in politics having an unfair like disadvantage, but Marie Antoinette's like on the cover of that book. So I was like, it's a little too close. I'm not going to do that for my first book proposal. But that was like something I did on Substack that I want to pick back up at a certain point because I do love the royal history writing. It's just not necessarily, I'm sure you know, it's not what goes viral most often.
Although I have used my own scheminess levels to scheme myself into getting to write a book, which I did, which is coming out in February 2026. It's called Rebel of the Regency, and it's available for pre-order in any bookstore in North America. Basically, if you go to rebeloftheregency.com, I've got a bunch of links there so you can order a copy. You can add it on Goodreads, you can add it on Storygraph, and when you do pre-order, if you send me the picture of the receipt, I've got some treats I'm offering for people: a free membership to my Substack, a free membership to my Patreon, and a Caroline of Brunswick paper doll are the things people can get.
I have to get the paper doll from you still. I did pre-order and I'm waiting on the NetGalley. You said it's available. I know it's a weekend as we're recording this.
It's on NetGalley. Yeah. So if you, like Amanda, have a NetGalley account and you can request, books, if you're a bookseller, librarian, reviewer, or just any NetGalley girly, you can get your advanced copies there as well. So yeah, rebeloftheregency.com is where that is. And
I'm so excited.
Yeah. And actually next week, everyone, I'm doing my first ever Vulgar History in person podcast recording.
Yay.
It's going to be in Halifax, Nova Scotia, where I'm going to be, my hometown. We're going to be at the Trident Cafe, 7 p.m. on Wednesday, September 3rd. You don't need to sign up. It's free. So just like show up and it'll be a nice time. My mom is coming. My besties are going to be there. So I was just like, you guys, you have to come. There has to be an audience. But if you also want to come, it's going to be free. So the info for that is in the show description as well. I will be sharing a story from Canadian history. And I'm really excited to be doing that. It's my practice event for when I have my alleged book tour. I want to just like get used to doing things like this in like Marie Antoinette in the safest possible environment, surrounded by my most trusted people.
Yep, bring your mom. My mom came to my first like tea that I hosted, and then she came to my second one too. But like it was really nice having her there.
Mom of Fact, I assume is her name.
Yes, Mama of Fact. Yep,
Mama of Fact. Yeah. Thank you so very much for joining me for this episode. I was so looking forward to it, and I could not, your explanations of how Versailles works are so cruel because like, this is like imprinted on you. It's like the way that I know like Tudor history, like, you know, the Versailles history. It's part of my
formative history learning years.
Yeah, no. And so reading these books, like it's so much easier to understand once I have this foundational background. So thank you so much for that, for sharing your expertise with us today.
You are very welcome anytime. And I cannot wait to talk about Caroline of Brunswick with you.
Yes. I mean, spoiler everybody, like obviously we're going to be doing some collabs in next year when my book comes out, because there's much to discuss.
But until then, I'll be listening.
For sure. So everybody keep your pants on and your tits out. Vulgar History is researched, scripted, and hosted by Ann Foster. That's me. Editor is Christina Lumagi. Theme music is by the Severin Duo. Transcripts of this podcast are available at vulgarhistory.com by Aveline Malik. You can get early, ad-free episodes of Vulgar History by becoming a paid member of our Patreon for as low as $1 a month at patreon.com/AnnFosterWriter. Vulgar History merchandise is available at vulgarhistory.com/store for Americans, and for everyone else at vulgarhistory.redbubble.com. Follow us on social media at Vulgar History Pod, and get in touch with me via email at vulgarhistorypod@gmail.com.
American history is full of infamous tales that continue to captivate audiences decades or even hundreds of years after they happened. On the Infamous America podcast, you'll hear the true stories of the Salem witch trials and the escape attempts from Alcatraz, of bank robbers like John Dillinger and Pretty Boy Floyd, of killers like Lizzie Borden and Charles Starkweather, of mysteries like the Black Dahlia and D.B. Cooper, and of events that inspired movies like Goodfellas, Killers of the Flower Moon, Zodiac, 8 Men Out, and many more. I'm Chris Wimmer. Join me as we crisscross the country from the Miami drug wars and Dixie Mafia in the South, to mobsters in Chicago and New York, to arsonists, kidnappers, and killers in California, to unsolved mysteries in the heartland and in remote corners of Alaska. Every episode features narrative writing and cinematic music, and there are hundreds of episodes available to binge. Find Infamous America wherever you get your podcasts.
It's ticklish business any way you look at it. Come on, we'll stick together.
Love movies? Love classic movies? So do we. Ticklish Business is the podcast where classic film is discussed in modern times. Hosted by me, film journalist Kristen Lopez, and my co-host, author Emily Edwards, we dive into the golden age of cinema with fun, heart, and serious expertise. As published film historians and lifelong classic movie buffs, we bring insider insights, deep research, and lively debates with a variety of special guests, ranging from celebrities like Holly Madison to TCM luminaries Dave Karger and Eddie Muller, and even family members of old Hollywood legends. Subscribe now to Ticklish Business on your favorite podcast app, and let's talk about old Hollywood today.
Look, we all know there are a lot of celebrity interview podcasts out there, but there's only one: Happy, Sad, Confused. I'm Josh Horowitz, and yeah, I'm the host of the show, so I'm a little biased, but truly Happy, Sad, Confused is the place for nerdy and intimate conversations with all your favorite actors and filmmakers. From Andrew Garfield and Scarlett Johansson to Christopher Nolan and Quentin Tarantino. For over 10 years and over 700 episodes, Happy, Sad, Confused has broken movie and TV news every single week. That's because I ask all the questions I want to know, and more importantly, you want to know. Casting what-ifs, backstage stories, acting pet peeves, and much more. So whether you're into superheroes, prestige TV, or just the coolest actors and directors alive, you're going to learn something in every episode. Listen to Happy, Sad, Confused on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.